Our world is a tapestry of connections. Sometimes we encounter complex problems. They are like a living ecosystem, where countless elements interact in unpredictable ways. These challenges touch every part of our existence, from the health of our planet to the well-being of our communities. Think of the changing climate, the loss of biodiversity, or the spread of a global pandemic. They spread through our societies like ripples in a vast pond. Simple solutions often have unexpected consequences. Complex problems are alive. They adapt and change. The path forward is not a straight line, but a winding trail that we must discover together. Recognizing a complex problem is crucial. It asks for stewardship and adaptation. By understanding this, we start a journey towards a more thoughtful way of living together on our remarkable planet. Wow! To grasp what makes a problem complex, compare it with something merely complicated. A complicated problem is like a Swiss watch, many parts working precisely together. A complex problem is like raising a child. There's no single formula for success. Building a rocket is complicated. Improving city traffic flow is complex. Building a new road might worsen congestion. The heart of the difference: one is a machine, the other a living organism. To better identify a complex problem, it helps to understand its key features. One of the most important is that the links between cause and effect are often hidden or unclear. An action can have a surprising and delayed effect in a way that is difficult to trace back. Another hallmark is the presence of feedback loops, cycles where the output of an action circles back to affect the original system. Complex systems are full of these loops, making their behavior difficult to predict and control. Complex systems are also emergent, displaying properties and behaviors that cannot be found in its individual parts. A colony of ants can build intricate nests without any central leader giving orders. Finally, these systems are adaptive. The elements are constantly learning and changing their behavior in response to their environment and to each other. We can never truly solve a complex problem. Instead, we must learn to manage it over time. When faced with the deep and shifting nature of a complex problem, it quickly becomes clear that no single person, no matter how brilliant, can possibly hold all the answers. The very nature of complexity, with its hidden connections and emergent properties, means that knowledge about the system is distributed. It is held in fragments by many different people, each with their own unique perspective and experience. An economist may understand the financial incentives, a sociologist may see the cultural dynamics, a biologist might grasp the ecological impacts, and a local resident will have the crucial lived experience of the problem on the ground. Each person holds a piece of the puzzle. Imagine trying to understand a great elephant while blindfolded. One person, touching the trunk, might describe it as a snake. Another, feeling the leg, would insist it is a tree. A third, holding the tail, might think it a rope. None of them are wrong, but none of them are right either, because they can only perceive a small part of the whole. A complex problem is much like this elephant. To truly understand its shape and nature, we must bring all these different perspectives together. We need to create a space where the economist, the biologist, the artist and the citizen can share their knowledge and together begin to build a more complete and nuanced picture of the reality they face. This is not just about gathering more information. It is about weaving together different kinds of wisdom. The precise data of a scientist is invaluable, but so is the intuitive understanding of a farmer who has worked the same land for generations. The analytical framework of an engineer is powerful, but so is the empathetic insight of a social worker who understands a community's fears and hopes. Each way of knowing reveals a different facet of the problem. To rely on only one is to remain partially blind. It is in the dialogue between these diverse viewpoints, in the respectful clash of ideas, that new insights can emerge and a path forward can be illuminated. Therefore, solving complex problems is fundamentally a collaborative act. It requires humility, the recognition that our own perspective is incomplete. It demands curiosity, a genuine desire to understand how others see the world. And it needs a process that can bring these disparate voices into a coherent and productive conversation. The lone genius working in isolation is a powerful myth, but it is a myth that fails us in the face of complexity. The future of our world depends on our ability to think together, to learn from one another, and to combine our collective intelligence to navigate the challenges that none of us can hope to solve alone. Sam, to deal with complexity, we need a different way of seeing. We need a new lens that allows us to look beyond individual events and see the deeper patterns and structures that connect them. This lens is called systems thinking. It focuses not on the separate parts of a system, but on the relationships between them and how they form a whole. Systems thinking encourages us to see the entire forest, not just a single tree. It shifts our focus from fixing parts to nurturing the health of the whole. Systems thinking is a shift in mindset. It helps us see that we are part of the systems we are trying to change. By changing how we think and interact, we can begin to change the world around us. And navigating problems can be confusing. A useful guide is the Cynefin framework, a Welsh word about our habitat. The framework helps us make sense of our situation so we can choose the most appropriate response. It divides problems into 5 domains, each requiring a different approach. The first domain is clear, where cause and effect are obvious. There are established best practices: sense, categorize and respond. The next domain is complicated. Here, cause and effect has a clear relationship, but requires expert diagnosis: sense, analyze and respond. Then we enter the realm of the complex. Cause and effect can only be understood in hindsight. We must probe, sense and respond with small experiments. This is the domain of adaptive leadership. The fourth domain is chaotic. Here there is no discernible relationship between cause and effect. The approach is to act, sense and respond to stabilize the situation. In the center is disorder, the state of not knowing which domain you are in. Cynefin helps us match our actions to the reality we face. The challenges we have been discussing are not abstract theories. They are playing out all around us, shaping our lives in profound ways. A global pandemic, such as the world has recently experienced, is a masterful and tragic example of a complex adaptive system in action. It is not simply a medical problem to be solved with a vaccine. The virus itself adapts and evolves. Human behavior is a critical and unpredictable part of the system. People's trust in authorities, their economic needs and their social habits all influence how the disease spreads. The response involves a delicate dance between public health measures, economic support and individual freedoms, with feedback loops rippling through every part of society. A decision to close schools, for instance, has effects far beyond controlling transmission. It affects children's education and mental health, places a burden on working parents, and has long-term economic consequences. A vaccine, while a monumental scientific achievement, is a complicated solution within a complex problem. Its effectiveness depends on manufacturing, distribution logistics, public trust, and equitable access across the globe. We saw how different countries with different cultures and political systems responded in vastly different ways, and how the system as a whole behaved in ways that no one could have predicted at the outset. It was a humbling lesson in the interconnectedness of our global community. Climate change is perhaps the ultimate complex problem of our era. It is a slow-moving crisis where the causes, our reliance on fossil fuels, and the effects are separated by decades, even centuries. The system involves the entire planet, its oceans, its atmosphere, its ice sheets, and all of its living creatures, including ourselves. The feedback loops are immense and frightening. For example, as Arctic ice melts, the darker ocean water absorbs more sunlight, which warms the ocean further, causing even more ice to melt. This is a powerful amplifying loop that can push the system towards a dangerous tipping point. Addressing climate change requires more than just technical solutions like renewable energy. It touches upon every aspect of our modern lives, our economies, our agricultural systems, our cities, and our deepest assumptions about progress and growth. It is a problem that is entangled with issues of global justice, as the nations that have contributed least to the problem are often the ones that suffer its worst consequences. There is no single off switch for climate change. It requires a sustained global effort, involving countless small and large changes, a collective shift in consciousness, and a willingness to cooperate and adapt in the face of profound uncertainty. Both the pandemic and our changing climate show us that we are undeniably part of a complex global system, and our future depends on learning to live wisely within it. When confronted with a complex problem, we often seek comfort in simplicity. One common mistake is to look for someone or something to blame, but it closes down curiosity and prevents learning. Another trap is our desire for a silver bullet solution. In a complex system, such actions often have unintended consequences that can make the problem worse. We also have a tendency to see the world through the narrow lens of our own expertise. If all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Finally, we often mistake the symptoms for the disease without ever touching the underlying causes. Systems thinking helps us lift our gaze and look for the source of the flood. If simple thinking is rooted in certainty and isolation, the path forward must be paved with humility and collaboration. To truly engage with complexity is to accept that we do not have all the answers. This humility is a profound source of strength. It opens the door to curiosity, allowing us to ask genuine questions and to listen to perspectives that are different from our own. It is the starting point for all meaningful collaboration. Working together is a practical necessity. The only way to access that collective intelligence is to bring people together in a spirit of shared purpose. This means creating spaces where it is safe to say, "I don't know," and to challenge prevailing assumptions. Valuing every voice allows a more complete picture to emerge. This collaborative journey also requires us to become comfortable with experimentation. Failure is simply data. It is a gift that tells us what does not work, bringing us one step closer to what does. Embracing complexity calls for a more open and generous way of being with one another. By choosing humility over arrogance, collaboration over isolation, and learning over certainty, we become a more connected and compassionate human family.